Welcome everyone to the Smith.ai Master Series. It's our webinar, our bi-monthly webinar series where we talk with industry experts and business professionals about ways that small business owners, operators, and small business, really sales and marketing professionals can do a better job of driving leads, driving interest for their brands and for their companies, and ultimately really growing those businesses. So we have a rock star lineup here today. I'm super excited about today's topic, which is on social media lead gen ads. And we have a group here that has a ton of experience in the agency space. And what makes that really relevant is across these four panelists, as well as myself included, we've probably worked on hundreds of different clients and possibly even thousands of different campaigns, which is really remarkable when you think about it. And we're bringing a lot of different experience and learnings and findings to the table here today. So I'm going to introduce you to our two guests outside of the Smith.ai organization. That's Aaron Weeks and Joseph Lewin, and they come from Proofpoint Marketing. So let's go to you, Aaron, first. Introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do at Proofpoint, and then we'll go to Joseph.
Yeah, of course. So I'm the Senior Performance Marketing Manager at Proofpoint, which all that means is I'm going to operationalize all the paid advertising activities we do for all our clients. I think today I can really offer kind of my experience being an agency for 8+ years, running ads in so many different formats in different situations, and particularly questions about when you don't have a lot of advertising spend, what can you do? I think for small businesses, that's really important, trying to unlock that and kind of deconstruct that. So hopefully I can do that for you. Pass to you, Joseph.
Yeah, my name is, I'm Joseph Lewin. Sorry about that. I'm a director of demand generation at Proofpoint. And so my focus is mostly on working with our clients on their strategy overall and how we help them go to market, especially by understanding who their customers are, what their pain points and problems are, and creating messaging that resonates with them. And then that really becomes the basis for what we're doing on the paid media side. And it's really the foundation that, from our perspective, you need first so that you can really build deeper relationships with your customers.
Fantastic. And two of my teammates that we have here today, Alex Ryan, she's our paid acquisition manager and really is responsible for all types of demand generation for our brand, all types of digital advertising for our brand, as well as reporting and analytics. And Ryan Goff, he's a man of many talents, but he's our solutions architect here at Smith.ai and helps our customers really build integrations to connect their tools, their systems, their software to Smith.ai and vice versa. That ultimately makes it a much more streamlined and efficient system so they can get more use out of our services as well as the other software that they are potentially using. So today's topic is on social media lead gen ads. And there's so much content out there, so many blog articles out there, so many educational certifications out there on how to conduct social media, how to do it right, things, ways that you go about it that are wrong. But I think a lot of that falls short because it doesn't focus enough on the advertising elements and on the advertising arm of social media. And there is so much potential there if you're willing to spend a little bit of money. So we're going to go to the proof point, guys, right now first. And Aaron, why don't you take this one? Help us to first understand the relationship that exists between a good, well-strategized organic social media program and layering on social media advertising and how they go hand in hand together.
Yeah, great question. So I'll kind of position it this way is I think how buyers buy today is we are on the channels where we want to spend our time. And one of those is social media. So as you have your organic social media program going, you can really use paid ads and specifically lead gen to kind of validate and scale what you're working on to understand if I should do more of it. So specifically, we'll kind of break down like why you want to do lead gen, but how I always kind of explain it, I'm sure Joseph has some comments too, is it's a great way to kind of expedite and speed that relationship building. Is if I can incentivize someone to talk to me, I can start the relationship conversation now. So we'll kind of definitely talk a lot about that. Got any thoughts about that, Joseph?
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to marketing in general, especially the more we move towards AI and automation, and those terms become more ubiquitous in the marketing conversation. I think a real advantage is the human element, and to make sure that you're including the human element and relationships in what you're doing. And I think that's even more true for small businesses, because it's one of the areas where you can really differentiate from massive competitors as being human and building connection and rapport with people. And so that combination of organic social and paid social, to Aaron's point, can kind of help you build those relationships at scale much faster, much more efficiently. And an example of why you would want to do both together would be if you're building an audience through organic social and your content is resonating with people, and you know that you're building this connection and engagement. If those same people end up seeing an ad from you, they're so much more likely to engage with it and not even see it as being like an invasive ad from something they're not used to, but maybe they've heard of you before, or they've seen a post from somebody at your company or from your company. And you're just going to build relationships with people a lot faster that way.
What are conversations like? Let's say with you, Joseph. What are conversations like when a new potential client comes to you and is asking about social media services with Proofpoint Marketing, and they want to try and get the best results for the effort that's being put in, whether it's them in-house putting in those efforts or whether they're going to hire your team to do it? What are you trying to do to convince them that they really need to have a good strategy in place that possibly consists of both organic efforts as well as paid?
Yeah, I mean, for us, our kind of mantra is that we believe that marketing's job is to build relationships at scale, and that when you build relationships at scale, it leads to revenue in the long run, really in the short run too. But trying to help people shift away from a very transactional mindset with the way that they're going about bringing in new business, because for most companies, you need people to keep coming back, and you get referrals and you build a reputation, and you do that by treating people with respect and treating people like they matter as an individual. And so we're always going to be emphasizing, hey, you need to really understand your customers first, and then build a strategy that's based on them, what they want, where they're consuming information, how they want to interact with your company and your brand. So for instance, if they're not spending very much time on LinkedIn, just with whatever job title they are, it's probably not a good platform to be focusing ad dollars on. And you're not going to know that unless you're doing research and you're spending time talking with them and understanding where they're coming from. So, we're always going to focus on that layer first of doing customer research, really understanding them, and then building a strategy out of that. And most of the time, it does include organic social and paid social. But yeah, I'll leave it there.
Really good segue into this next question. I'm going to point this one over to Alex. Joseph's talking about the importance of building out that ideal customer profile, possibly buyer personas. How important is it to begin with that customer research before you even open up Facebook, open up YouTube, open up LinkedIn? Tell me about that process to identify and research what that customer looks like.
Well, I think that like both of you made some really good points, and I think that content in the current market is more important than ever, because if you know the type of content from an organic perspective that your ideal customer wants to be consuming, and you can produce more quality content along those lines, it just puts you in a much better position for paid advertising, because honestly, right now, the algorithms are so advanced that a lot of the line of thinking says leave your targeting broad and let the content itself kind of drive that engagement and then optimize from there. So to know what your ideal customer is consuming is the most important thing, and you really can't scale without that and the quality content.
Yeah, I've seen it where it can not only make a huge difference in your results and how many leads you can generate from your advertising efforts, but it's a huge cost savings because you're not wasting so many dollars on folks that are simply not the right fit and not in market to potentially buy from you. So I'm going to get this question out of the way, and this wasn't on the list beforehand, but I'm going to send this one over to Ryan because I know he's good at talking about these things. But Aaron hinted at the changes that are taking place because of AI and new tech. Chat GPT, all of these type of new tools that are coming out, it's the big, everybody's talking about it, it's buzzing right now. Do you think that this will, or how do you think that this will impact organic social? And does it warrant even more value in advertising to cut through that clutter of so much more content that could be potentially created because of these AI tools?
Yeah, all the hype right now is in these tools that seem remarkable, but still there's something a little stale, and they're great for coming up with ideas, but missing that one last little bit. So I think Joseph mentioned that, which is a competitive advantage for a small business, is that human touch that is difficult to scale and difficult to systematize, and really why you need yourself a great agency and heart inside of your ads to make sure that they're speaking directly, because it's going to take a long time, maybe forever, for something like Chat GPT to know what your firm signifies in your geographic location and what your customers are asking. And I think we're a little bit or a lot of it possibly away from having that available. They're great tools to use. There's a ton of marketing automation and idea generation and SEO tools that you can use, but that last little bit that really makes a difference is always going to come from you and your marketing partners that truly understand why you do what you do every day.
The key word that I'm focusing on as you're talking, Ryan, is creative. And that's what's going to help break through the clutter and stand out on either the organic side or the advertising side. So this one over the Proofpoint team, why don't we do this one for Aaron? What does your process look like to understand what your client's product, services, brand is all about, and how do you begin that creative process before you even begin to start posting on their behalf or creating ads on their behalf?
Yeah, this is great. So I'll kind of take it two ways. So Joseph already mentioned that like talking to your customers is very central to kind of our strategy and the action that's going to align around it. So first and foremost, if you have opportunities to talk to your customers, do it more often. Now, kind of our system, what we try to do is like, we're very strict on like, we're going to start with message testing because we think that's our unique point of view, that we have control over that as marketers. We can say something unique and get it in front of the right people at the right time. So we're going to do some ads that may be more traditional of like, here's some messaging, go ship them to the market, how they feel. And then from that, we kind of iterate on it. And then we start to introduce kind of more of the creative aspects, again, different formats. Here's a quote ad, here's a video ad, getting into all the formats. So I just want to kind of lay the line there, and then we kind of pick apart what we want me to kind of dive deeper on.
No, I think that's really great. And I think just starting with what the customer and that brand represents before you can even start figuring out what that messaging should look like and what's going to resonate best with their potential clients, their potential customers, is definitely a good point. All right, last question, Joseph, for you before we actually get into the heart of this, which is the lead gen ads. Give us a brief rundown of the different ad types and when they might work best for various types of businesses.
Yeah, so my focus at Proofpoint is definitely more on the strategy side and working through the messaging and content. So that one probably is better addressed to Aaron.
Let's throw it over to Aaron.
Yeah, before you roll there though, just on the content note, because I think this is actually pretty key with everything that we just talked about, as far as how do you avoid all the noise that's going to come from Chat GTP, and how do we go about figuring out creative. I mean, the main thing is you have people who know what they're talking about on your team, and they have specialized expertise. And so instead of leaning on an agency to try to make that stuff up for you, unless they have people who are extreme experts in your niche, they're not going to be able to create the level of quality that you could create internally. Maybe not on your own. You know, that's where having an agency partner that can help you understand how do you get that knowledge out and get it in front of people. But some of the content we see perform the best is just subject matter experts sharing their expertise. That positions them as a trusted advisor. It positions them as being knowledgeable. And it really is showing your expertise versus just telling people that you're an expert. So I would say that that's really important and what we're looking for when we're doing that research side of things.
Yeah, it's a really good point. And I normally think about it from the creative end, because I still don't believe that these tools can get as creative as a human can. Yeah, hopefully not ever, or else we might be out of a job. But I love what you're saying too about the in-depth knowledge that we, as either our in-house team, we work for the brand or the company itself, or the agency partners or other types of freelance partners might have, just because they work on that product, on that service, day in and day out. And you certainly will have deeper knowledge than a tool that at the moment is scouring the web and trying to repurpose it. Aaron, let's wrap up on this topic right here before we dive further in. A little bit of a rundown on the different types of ads and when some might be more worthwhile than others.
Perfect question. So I'll kind of do the main ones, which is single image ad, carousel ad, and video ad, because we're going to do lead gen next. So a single image ad is probably what you're going to see most often on every single ad platform, right? It's a native image and text. Again, we like to really focus on the text more than the image. That's how we do our message testing. So you'll probably see that most often. Carousel ads are great as well when you really want to kind of tell your unique POV and story over time, right? Is people need to understand the narrative, and maybe one single image is not going to do it for them. That's where carousel ad can kind of come in and help you out. Video ad is probably our favorite format for many reasons, but specifically for small businesses is you're going to be based on relationships. Let's get you on camera, right? You're going to talk to someone. Let's distribute that video ad in front of those right people at the right time. So now they already know you, they know your voice, they know the narrative that you have. And it makes those relationships a lot easier when you have those conversations.
Yeah, that's a fantastic setup here. And just for those that are listening, there's lots of different types of advertising that are available to you, specifically in the digital space. Google ads, Google local service ads, you have YouTube, Spotify, Hulu, Reddit, you name it, and there is potentially an advertising arm to a lot of these platforms that exist. In today's talk, we're going to be focusing specifically on Facebook and and LinkedIn, because they offer lead gen ads, and we personally have had great success with these two platforms in particular. So let's go to Alex. Let's dive immediately into, not immediately, it's 20 minutes in now, but let's dive into lead gen. Tell me about Facebook and LinkedIn's lead gen ad capabilities, and really how they differ from the ones that Aaron just described, and why small to medium-sized companies can see a lot of success with them.
So first, it's interesting because when we're talking about ad types, I really like the way that Aaron answered the question. It's just kind of funny because I understood it a little bit differently. When I think about ad types, I kind of think about, what are you trying to optimize towards? What do you want the user to ultimately do? So it can be like, you can do a video ad, which is going to serve to somebody that's most likely to watch your video or click through to your website or buy your product. For us, we really want people that are going to fill out that form. So that's kind of what we put most of our energy into optimizing towards. Now, I will say that the user experience across a lead gen ad for Facebook and LinkedIn can be very similar. Facebook, we do pretty much a standard, you see a video or a single image in your feed, you click, and instead of going to a website, it goes to a form for the user to fill out, and kind of keeps you in app, kind of like a mini landing page experience without ever having to go to a website, which is always great, because at the end of the day, the user's in the social space for a reason. They want to scroll. They don't really want to get derailed to a website. They want to stay in feed. For LinkedIn, we have found a lot of success with conversation ads, which is essentially the exact same as just sending a sponsored message, but it is something that LinkedIn created to really inspire more user engagement and kind of make it feel more natural versus like overly salesy.
That's awesome. And just as a recap, these lead gen ads are lead capture points within the platforms themselves. So they're forms within Facebook, within LinkedIn, and it allows the brand, the advertiser, to be able to capture that contact information directly. And it's even a better user experience in many cases for the user, because he or she doesn't have to even leave the platform, which means it's in the best interest also of the social media platform, because they want to keep the user there. So it almost seems like a win-win-win for all three parties, as long as that's a quality lead that's being generated, and you're going to really do that through targeting. So over to Ryan on this one. Tell us a little bit about the differences in the targeting parameters that exist between Facebook and LinkedIn, and when a business might choose one versus the other.
Yeah, and Alex can correct me on this, but broadly speaking, Facebook is great for B2C based on demographics. So for better, for worse, you tell Facebook a lot about yourself, including your age, where you live, and what you're interested in. And maybe it's, antique guitars or something like that. As a part of all these groups you're in, Facebook can build a profile about you that says a little bit about who you are. LinkedIn tends to be known as the B2B platform and is more about where you work, where you have worked, who you're connected to that may work in other industries, and says more about your professional life. So if you're painting with very broad strokes, you can start there with who your target market is. And each platform from there has exceptional filtering to build your audience set. So if you are selling a consumer facing product, let's say you can pick age ranges, geographic ranges, any sort of domestic attribution. You can pick interests. Like I mentioned before, you might be into antique guitars, but you also want people that are interested in something else that's related. So you can come up with these powerful Venn diagrams in your audience and very specifically target to who you want. So keep a watchful eye when you're building these campaigns, because if Meta and Facebook didn't become as big as they are by limiting your ad spend, they're very good at adding people to your audience. So look back through your previous year calendar or your CRM, take a look at your audience and try to see if you can paint 3 to 5 general characteristics to start building your audience, and put those in there, and the platforms will give you great feedback on how that particular ad set's performing. And even at the same time, you can run multiple different audience types, and you can compare. I believe that these 3 characteristics were the best audience, but we also built audiences B and C, and those tended to outperform it. And that's what the fun of marketing is all about.
Definitely. And just a heads up for anyone that's sitting here listening in, if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat window. I have another monitor over here. So if you see me glance over here, I'm monitoring for any questions and we'll try to address them in real time. But yeah, love what you're saying here, Ryan. And I love the picture that you painted of both of the platforms and how they differ. And love how you ended that with, by default, these platforms aren't going to be very good about targeting unless you take action, manual action, in order to target further. A lot of folks, especially small business owners and operators who might be doing this on their own, they might default to regular boosting on Facebook, let's say, and the built-in default features of the audience that it's set to when you just hit the boost button is not necessarily going to generate the results that you want, because that's in Facebook's interest and not necessarily yours. So back over to Aaron, what have you found to be the best ways really to target? I know it depends on your client. And you've said before we jumped on here, you have a lot of different types of clients and industries that you serve across your clients, but how do you go about really approaching that, setting up the audiences in these platforms on behalf of your clients before you begin building them out?
Yeah, great question. So one question that Joseph and I get asked all the time is our audience on Facebook or LinkedIn? The answer is both. Like, we all are on social media. It's more about who do you want to target and why right now. So I think normally with our clients who are going to be more B2B focused, we're probably going to start with LinkedIn and validate something, commit to it, and then scale on Facebook. But again, why we want to choose LinkedIn ads first, again, for our clientele is LinkedIn has first party data. It's like we can target job title, job functions. We can target particular companies. We get real granular of like who these right people are. And then we can go distribute content and learn about it. And then once we feel confident, like that is the right content for the right people, then we can go on Facebook, which is much better at, as Alex explained, like just finding the right people who want to read this content by letting the algorithm kind of do it. That would be kind of the process that I would recommend for someone who's more in B2B is start on LinkedIn, get really good at what you're doing, get the right message, then go scale on Facebook because there's more people there and there's more reach.
Yeah, that's awesome. And that just reminded me another question I'm going to point over to Alex. A lot of folks that do social media and social media ads, in most cases, they're going to default to whatever the targeting is that's built into the platforms themselves. But you and I know that there's external data that can be brought into the system, either through purchased and acquired lists, through email marketing lists or CRM data, or remarketing data that can help take that targeting to the next level. And you know that that's going to be much more targeted than the general filtering and targeting that's built in. So what experience have you had with custom audiences and remarketing audiences, and how can that do a better job for you as an advertiser?
That is a great question. So something that Ryan touched a little bit on earlier is that Facebook over the years, due to different circumstances, has kind of removed slowly every single year, a little bit more goes away, targeting capabilities up front. But as Ryan said, the data all still exists. They have each of our profiles. They know more about us than we would ever hope to know that they did. So for us, a huge thing that we have found huge amounts of success with is lookalike audiences. So for those of you who are not familiar with a lookalike audience, what a lookalike audience does is take a seed audience that you upload to the platform, then it analyzes it, and then it goes out and it tries to find more people that look like those people. So what I always say is that your lookalike audience is only as strong as your seed audience. And the more similar that your seed audience can be, or the more similar that your seed audience is, the more that the platform can be, in terms of accurately expanding it. So for us, just as an example, we are trying to reach small business decision makers, and targeting on Facebook really is pretty weak for that in terms of job titles and accuracy. So what I did was I created a list from our CRM of anyone with the job title of founder, owner, CEO, and let Facebook run with that. And that's been massively successful. So that's lookalike audiences. And just to touch really quickly on remarketing, basically anything, I have different levels of remarketing. So I like to start with kind of more like anyone that visits your website. Then I have like a very high quality page, like pages that really demonstrate a certain level of interest. And finally, I also remarket to anyone that has engaged with an ad but has not converted. So a lot going on there.
Yeah, the remarketing ads can be super powerful. And for those that might not know, that's when somebody has interacted with either an ad already and you're serving them up with a different ad to try and push them further towards the purchase, or they've interacted with certain pages on your website or certain content on your website, and you're serving them up with ads after the fact to bring them back and continue to push them towards the purchase. So remarketing it's kind of like a no-brainer. Most brands can see value in remarketing as long as you go about it the right way. And I love the picture that you painted, Alex, too, on the importance of advertising to really stimulate that interest, because anybody that has money can go out and get contact information. There's dozens upon dozens of contact information providers out there. I can have you, in the next half hour, I have a million names at my disposal if I have the money to buy it. It's really leveraging the data in order to introduce them to your brand and into your experience and get them to be interested in whatever it is that you're storytelling or whatever it is that you're selling. So I think putting those two things together really is the perfect equation. Back over to Aaron for this one. So you're building these ads, and they're lead gen, they're form-based ads to try and get someone interested in whatever it is that you're promising them in order to capture their contact information and have them enter into your sales funnel. What's the messaging look like in order to prompt them to fill out that form? It's going to be different than a general Facebook boost. How does that messaging differ to get them to take action right then and there?
Totally. So your messaging on your lead gen ad really needs to have an offer and an incentive for someone to give you their information. One particular example we do a lot, actually, I'll start with the example I did when I was in the SaaS space, is doing lead gen free trials. That's very easy to understand, the offer and the incentive, right? Is if you give us your information, you get access to our product for free for this time period. A common one we do more that's more B2B with teams that kind of have a sales function and engineering function is we try to get people to understand the message in the lead gen content of, okay, if you talk to us, we can help you solve something right now, even though you're not going to maybe hire us as a client, but what we want to do is maybe sit down with you and do a worksheet we came up with. That would be a good message and offer an incentive to get someone to fill that out. And we can start a relationship conversation now, and you can start that sales process once they're in funnel.
Okay, so they fill out the form. They now are technically in the funnel, but you have to get them there. So we'll go to Joseph first and then over to Ryan, and that's his forte. How are you connecting the dots here to take them from Facebook, where that data, that actual contact information exists, and get them into your other systems in order to have your clients take action on it? We'll go to Joseph first.
Yeah, so just to kind of lay the land, because we use lead gen ads, but we kind of do it in a really selective and specific way. So from our perspective, again, I mean, we're typically working with companies that have very large recurring contracts, or if they're making less than $250,000 in a deal, it's going to be on the smaller side a lot of times for our customers, especially lifetime value might be significantly higher. So some of this may not be as relevant to some of your customers that might be doing something different, but it's in the best interest of most of our customers to build rapport first before somebody's ready to buy. Whereas, if you're running lead gen ads and people don't know who you are, you're typically going to get people who are more transaction focused. And a lot of times that comes down to price. Not always, but a lot of times if somebody's already in the market, they've already defined their requirements for what they're looking for, then at that point, you're just kind of competing with the 10 other companies that are like you, and trying to convince somebody in one phone call that you're different is going to be really challenging. Whereas if you're able to, through paid social and organic social, before that person's ready to buy, help them understand the problem better and help reframe the problem for them, then by the time they come in through a lead gen ad, they have already bought into your point of view. And that's where, that customer research and messaging and all those pieces come into play, is really understanding what is it that the customer thinks their pain is coming from, what is the problem that they're actually experiencing, and how do we solve that in a unique way. So to tie that back into lead gen ads, where we usually use those, is we'll have maybe like a webinar series on a specific topic, and then we'll have a worksheet that goes along with that series. So for instance, it might be a calculator that helps you calculate for an engineering company how much engineering time you're spending on this particular type of project, and helping them to identify, hey, there's actually a lot of hidden costs in here that you're not calculating. And so if you were to save, X amount of time, it's going to end up being a lot more profitable for you than you realize. So they go through, they fill out that form, and then it's really natural for somebody on the team to reach out to them. And that could be through LinkedIn or through email. It just kind of depends on the customer. We're pulling that data into their CRM, and then they're able to reach out. But it's really natural for them to reach out and say, hey, you've downloaded this calculator. Would it be helpful to have somebody in our team take a look at it with you, one of our engineers, and give you some pointers on some things you might be missing? And so it's a very relationship focused activity. And we found for our customers that leads to finding a lot better fit customers for them, because you're building that rapport up front, you're adding value, again, you're kind of being in that trusted advisor position versus like an order taker kind of a relationship. I don't know if that answers your question, but I just kind of wanted to lay out how we use those lead gen ads specifically.
Yeah, I think that answered the high level question, and we'll get into Ryan for the lower level question. But I will reinforce something that you're saying, that even if you're not going after large volumes in high quantities, they still could be valuable. As you're saying, you have high value prospects that you're going after that are potentially willing to spend, $500,000 on sort of custom engineered project or whatever the client happens to be selling. But it still warrants the importance of targeting on the front end of those ads, and then lead qualification on the back end of those ads, to make sure that you're filtering out the tire kickers, the ones that are unqualified, and only letting the qualified folks get through. So you're spending your time on the ones that are most likely to convert at the end of the day into a new paying client. So Ryan, help us to understand how you can automate this process, especially if you have a large influx of form fills and a large influx of leads coming in. And he's the one that personally built this for ourselves. We use Smith.ai to do this, and Ryan built the system. So help us understand what this automation process looks like.
Yeah, I think those philosophies from Proofpoint are right on, no matter if you're selling the smallest thing up into these large enterprise sales. So my background was buying ads for solo and small attorneys for about 8 years. And so I've seen both sides of this where they've got, the kind of everyday estate planning type stuff to the larger personal injury. But what I've seen more than anything is that a small business owner wears every hat at the business. So they're doing the accounting, they're doing the marketing, employee management, all those types of things. And that's in addition to doing the actual work. So luckily, there are a lot of tools and that you can use in order to help you manage these leads. And we do often see a larger influx more than these not working. So when you get a lead on a platform like LinkedIn, let's say, that lead comes maybe to your email and you get one notification and that's it. And if you don't take any action, it gets lost in the other 400 emails that you received today. What you want is that lead to stand out in some special way. And there's a ton of tools you can use. Very popular one called Zapier. Zapier has a free tier that you can set up and sort of start to play with this. And you would connect either your Facebook or LinkedIn account to your to your Zapier account. And then you can use those one lead form trigger to start a chain of as many actions as you'd like. So for Smith, I help our clients generate a message to Smith that has one of our virtual receptionists call that lead instantly. So we can, let's say, get them scheduled on a free consultation calendar. You can send out SMS leads to yourself and your team in order to notify them of this lead using Zapier. You can send Slack messages. You can do all these. You can add them to your CRM, which is one of the most powerful things, so you can properly attribute these leads to the right marketing channels. So using these tools, Zapier's powerful ability to just point and click and say, whenever something happens on my Facebook lead gen ads, do X, Y, and Z, means that you are automating that, not only the lead intake process, but that immediate follow-up, that notification, because you're already doing enough as a business owner. You don't need to be literally copying and pasting data from one thing to another in order to give the top quality service that you need to compete with that lead. So I would encourage you to, if you are get your hands dirty with these lead platforms. If you haven't run Facebook or LinkedIn, if you have, but you had a bad experience and you learned a couple of tricks here, set a low budget amount, build your form, generate a couple leads, and then also sign up for a free Zapier account and just connect it. This should take you an hour, 2 hour at most. Get a couple leads, send a text to yourself saying, congratulations, you built a great campaign. Do something so you learn a little bit about how these automations work, because it may seem like it takes a long time to set up. It really does not. These tools are built to get you onboarded, get you using it. And that way you can go and focus on running your practice, doing the actual work, and not on moving data around.
So Ryan, if they don't use any sort of automation, those leads are going to sit and live within the native platforms themselves. So they're just going to sit into a holding cell really inside of Facebook, where you need to manually go in there and check it, or at minimum possibly an email notification, right? So they're
at most, yeah.
They at most, not minimum. So they need to take that information minimally out of email and convert it, copy, paste it, clean it up, and do whatever they need to do with it in order to take action on it. Where Zapier or any of the automations that you're talking about can help take that, automatically push it into, let's say, HubSpot, pass that information, clean it up, get it into the right fields, and also notify them to take action on it from their CRM as it normally would, as it's captured on their website, for instance, right?
Yeah, and you can see on Smith.ai's help docs website, we have extensive guides on how to send LinkedIn ads and Facebook ads through Zapier to, whether it's Smith or to your CRM. You can follow step by step and see how easy this is. So when you're looking at your Facebook form on Zapier and you have a field that says first name, you click on first name, and let's say you want it in your CRM and HubSpot under first name, you say whatever the Facebook first name was, and it's literally point and click. There's typically no cleaning up. There's no complicated maneuvering. It is, that's where Zapier became so powerful and so widely used. It is, you point and you click and you hit play, and then all that data automatically moves for you.
Awesome. That's excellent. Let's go back over to Proofpoint. I got a couple more questions here before we wrap up and take more questions from the audience. So reporting and analytics, lifeblood of everything that we do in marketing, or else why even do it, right? So what does reporting look like for you and your team that you're producing on behalf of your clients, specifically as it relates to social media advertising and lead gen ads?
Yeah, I'll take this one and I'll pull you in, Joseph. So I think one of the challenges you may face as small business is dealing with measurement versus attribution. And on your reporting, you got to do one or the other. Maybe you can't do both unless you build it out. So for our clients, we try to get really good at attribution. So we can kind of show our marketing source activity over time. So this is where lead gen is going to help you with the attribution component, right? Is I capture a lead, they go in my CRM, the deal gets worked, it's sourced from marketing, it gets closed. I can report on kind of the opportunity amount of that marketing source lead. The other side is the measurement side, where we work with clients who don't even have a CRM. So like, what do you do? Can you still do this? The answer is yes. A lot of what we do on the measurement side is aligning on specific KPIs that work for our clients. I think that's important because they can't work for everyone. So you got to find those 5 that work. And then we do some other activities such as qualitative assessments. So this is why we like LinkedIn and LinkedIn lead gen specifically is I can start capturing leads. I can go back to the strategy. I need to get in front of the right people who's in my ICP. I can start to catalog, okay, are these the right job titles? This is right firmographic fit. Are these the right people I want to talk about? And what incentive, what message are they aligning about? And sometimes I package that up in a spreadsheet because those still work too. So I was just giving you a big overview of kind of measurement attribution, but we can take it from there.
Alex, similar question, but let's say it's a small company and they don't necessarily have sophisticated tools. What are some of the important metrics that they should be looking at for their social media efforts as a whole, but also their lead gen efforts to make sure that it's the right people that they're finding and capturing?
Definitely baseline. I always just look at CPM. So how much is it taking to reach a certain number of people? Like, are you getting in front of enough people? Are you getting in front of the right people? Then definitely click-through rate. How many people are even, baseline engaging with your ad? Maybe not even submitting that form, but how many people have you stopped the scroll for to even want to learn a little bit more? And then cost per lead. Those are my 3 kind of big ones that I always look at. And
there's obviously a lot of more sophisticated tools in order to do this data capture. We use Salesforce as our CRM, so we try to bring as much attribution and data into Salesforce as possible. So it's our one source of truth, but there's tools like Google Analytics and Google Data Studio and building out those type of dashboards. If you're using HubSpot as your CRM, you can do it in there. There's business intelligence tools. If you have some Domo that rolled off pretty nicely, but those type of tools bring in multiple data sources into one single dashboard and make it a lot easier to really look at the performance of your marketing as a whole, and they can be really helpful.
And those platforms will also have that data natively. So if you, like Aaron mentioned, you may not have a CRM, you may not be pulling that data out. You can go into your Facebook ad center and see all those key metrics that Alex mentioned right on there. How many leads did you get? What did it cost you? And make some good decisions built right into those platforms.
Cool. Very cool.
I have one quick note on measurement, because Aaron's my man for like diving into the weeds, and I'm usually the guy that's going, okay, let's make sure that what we're focusing on is the right things with our customers. So one thing to keep in mind is just, you can be getting leads cheaper than you are, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to turn into relationships and customers that are going to pay you what you're worth and pay on time and all those factors. So I think it's really important to make sure that you're setting good expectations for yourself of what does a good customer look like, and really understand that up front. And then measure, look at your measurement for everything from paid media and then start tracking which types of customers are actually turning into long-term customers that are good fit customers. And you might end up paying significantly more per lead to get the right kinds of customers. And that's totally okay. And I think it's really easy to get caught up in always trying to reduce your ad spend and optimize. And that's great. But you really have to be paying attention to, are these actually closing into deals?
Right.
Especially as a small business, you've got to be keeping a finger on the pulse of, the quality that's coming in, and be willing to pay more to make sure that you're getting the right kind of people and not having to field a bunch of leads that aren't necessarily going to turn into anything for you in the long run.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I was going to ask you about budget anyway, so that you came in hot, and I was going to come at you with a budget question. So Alex, why don't you add on to that and help us understand like how you might be able to determine what your budget should look like?
So I'm just gonna piggyback off of what Joseph said just really quick, because I actually did have something to add. I think that was a great point, because we've seen from personal experience and kind of topical to what we've been talking about this whole time, there are different types of content that you can promote. And if you're doing something like asking somebody to fill out a lead or a lead form in exchange for something like an ebook or a blog post, those leads can be super cheap and you can get them all day long. But at the end of the day, if you do the deep dive and realize that, that was a very high level customer, they never had any intention of actually buying the product, that's something that, you can say, I'm willing to pay 5 times more for the higher quality leads. So it just goes to show how important content is, there as well, and not the be all end all for, cost per lead as your main metric. But in terms of budget, this question is always kind of my least favorite question to answer, just because
that's why I asked it.
Yeah, I know. And it's always like, whenever somebody's like, how much do I have to spend? And like, there's not, what should my budget be? And it's an annoying answer, but it's really like, the more you spend, the more you get. And all that paid media is trial and error and learning and optimizing and figuring out what the right combination of all the different things at our disposal is in order to make it work for the end result. So all that I will say is that you can do it $5 a day. Like, there's no correct budget, but the more that you spend, the faster you're going to learn, and the better quality your campaigns are going to be ultimately.
Yeah, we used to just have clients in my past life. We would just kind of pull a number out of a hat. We'd say $750, dollars a month. And that was just a launching pad, right? It was really just so there would be some money devoted to the campaigns in order for us to start learning. And then maybe the next month we say, you've plateaued, you can drop that back to $500 a month, or maybe there's so much potential that you need to, quadruple that budget and have it be significantly more than what we started out as. But yeah, absolutely. You need to start with some budget devoted to it, so you have some learnings.
And then one thing that I will also add to that I think is very interesting is that there is also a world in which your budget is too much and you're completely saturating the market and you're hitting the same people too many times. They're annoyed, they're not converting, and there is kind of a tipping point of efficiency where just because you're getting a lead for $50, if you 5 times your budget, that doesn't mean that cost per lead is going to hold. So it's a very delicate balance, and all part of the optimization and ongoing monitoring.
Cool. Okay, there are some questions that came in, but I want to hit this last point really hard, and I'm going to put it into Ryan's camp. These webinars are usually not self-promotional, but Smith.ai's services complement lead gen ads perfectly well, because our services were a 24/7 virtual receptionist service. Leads come in and our agents will call back immediately on behalf of the business. And that speed to lead, the quickness that you can respond back to leads makes a huge difference in being able to close that deal. So Ryan, just kind of reinforce what I teed up here. How important is speed to lead, and why does the service matter? And why do businesses have a difficult time reacting as quickly as they should?
I think I'll start with the difficulty. We talked about that before. It's a small business owner has every possible responsibility at their own firm or business. And if these leads come in and are just sitting in their inbox, it's kind of like you get to it when you get to it. And it's 2023, and that is just approaching almost unacceptable with the kind of Amazonification of expectations. So the best part is using a tool like Zapier and Smith, for example, you can immediately follow up with these leads as they come into these lead forms. And that gives you the opportunity to not be sitting by your phone 24/7 worried that you're going to be spending marketing money and then that lead's just going to call you, get your voicemail, move on. But that form comes in, automatically gets sent to Smith. Our agents instantly respond to that, I should say immediately respond to that call and get the lead on the phone and say, hey, what is it that you're looking for? Give them a bit of qualification with some measures that you've given us, and then say, excellent, we have Tuesday at 4 p.m. available for a free consult. Can you come to the office? Yes. So you've now brought that from these lead gen forms just getting stuck in your inbox to this lead showing up at your office with information about your business. You can even use Zapier to continue that communication automatically with follow-up emails, text reminders of the appointment, all these things, and you have yet to spend 1 minute having to work on it. And what a great way for, everyone can relate to these experiences that you call a company, you get the voicemail, they call you back like 24 hours later, you're busy. And it's like, I'm trying to give you money. Like, here's my info. Let me, help me out here. And using these types of automations, make it so you can focus on the actual work you want to do and not playing phone tag with leads. And what a great experience for potential customers of yours.
Yeah, that's perfect. That's perfect. All right, let's jump to a couple of questions that came in. We'll try to be efficient with this since there's only a few minutes left. If I am targeting 2 different regions on LinkedIn, how do I ensure my ads are running evenly in both places? So that's probably Alex or Aaron. You guys can fight over who you want to answer that one.
It's a really simple answer. All that you have to do is create 2 different campaigns. One is East Coast, only target locations that you want to target in the East Coast, set a daily or lifetime budget, and then do the same thing with the West Coast campaign. And it will just think of them as 2 different entities and spend equally.
Great, awesome. Here's other ones. For a small business, do you see more leads generated from ads that convert with a phone call or a form fill, assuming there that I have a call center that can readily respond to incoming calls? So in a nutshell, what performs better, phone call based leads or form fill based leads? Let's do Aaron on this one.
All right, I'll try to take it. So I think more often than not, it's just going to depend on your sales motion. And if you sell in your motions through calling, then you're probably going to do very well. If you need to, and kind of some of the examples we explained is, especially when you're working with like an engineering company, is you have to fill out, let them know what your requirements are. I need these specs. I need this outcome for you to have a successful sales conversation. Your form fill is probably going to perform better. So I think it kind of depends on the sales motion and also probably like the outcome of what you're trying to achieve from that lead gen ad.
That very well said. And I'll add something. It just was coincidence that I had a conversation earlier today with a colleague, and we were talking about businesses that put a lot of emphasis on phone calls. If that's generally the best way for customers to want to interact and engage with them, then that's awesome. Lean into it if you need to, but you still need tracking set up to be able to track and measure against those phone calls. A lot of times businesses set up their systems so they can track form fills, and then it's just absolutely the wild, wild west when it comes to phone calls, and you're not able to really measure properly across the entire landscape of your marketing efforts. Because let's say even if it's 50-50, great. Now your reports are only 50% accurate because you're measuring form fills, but you're not measuring anything related to the phone calls and the quality of those phone calls. So just a little bump there for like a call rail or another call tracking system that can be really, really important. Last one here. This is easy because you already answered it, Aaron, in the chat. I think it was direct message though. So just so everybody can see it. What tool or system should I use to create audio and video for my audience so they can view it while they're scrolling at the same time? You want to give a plug there based on what you answered?
Yeah, I think I'll give maybe the main tools we use. So Loom is great if you're like someone like me who I want a technical ad where I'm like recording my face and showing my screen, and then I can export that and make a video ad out of it. Another one we use a lot because we run a lot of live events or podcasting is Descript. So we can create micro clips from that podcast episode or live event, and we turn those into video ads and then ship them. So those would be the two I would plug.
Fantastic. Great. We're just about ready to wrap up here. We do these Master Series webinars each month. The next one is, I think, the mid to late March, and it's going to be on our outreach campaigns. And that's a Smith.ai offering where we do outbound calling on behalf of our clients and enhance the SDRs or the sales teams that you may have in-house to work those lead lists and qualify and generate more leads. So Aaron and Joseph, give one more shout out to your agency and let people know where they can find you.
Thank you, Joseph.
Yeah, I mean, at Proofpoint Marketing, we're mostly focusing on B2B technical services companies. And so if you're doing something that's technical and hard for people to understand, you've mostly gotten referrals, word of mouth customers in the past. We can help you build similar relationships at scale, going beyond what your sales team would be able to do alone by creating content that really connects with your customers and running paid media campaigns and things like that behind it. So you can check us out, proofpoint.marketing, and yeah, love to have a conversation with you.
Fantastic. And we're Smith.ai, 24/7 virtual reception, live chat, and outreach campaigns. And we can help manage both your inbound and your outbound calls, chats, and messages. So make sure to tune in for future Master Series webinars. I will be sending an email after this, so it can go out to anyone that's registered in case you weren't able to attend this live and you want to watch the playback. But Aaron, Joseph, Alex, Ryan, appreciate you taking the time and giving your talent and expertise here today. And everyone, thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.